Perhaps you have a wonderful story idea. Maybe it came to you in the shower or while you were watching a movie, and you thought, I could write something like that. Perhaps in your mind, you picture a woman. There's a small town. You have some tension going on between the two characters, and then nothing. Now you're staring at a blank page, wondering how that wisp of a daydream is going to turn into an actual story. That's exactly what I want to talk with you about today. In case we haven't met, I'm Lorna Faith, and I write clean adventure fiction, and I also write contemporary sweet romance with my pen name Melody Archer. I love to help beginning writers by talking about what I've learned about writing fiction in hopes that something I have learned will in some small way help you to write and self-publish your own sweet romance books. As always, what I share is simply how writing my novels has worked for me, but you might have a different way that works better for you, and if you do, I really want to encourage you to keep doing that. So today I'm going to walk you through a simple, repeatable process for turning a vague romance idea into a full, workable plot, one that has a beginning, a middle, a crisis, and a satisfying happily ever after. This is just simply a clear roadmap, so let's get into it. Idea number 1. Why vague is actually a great starting place. First, I want to reassure you, vague is a wonderful place for you to start brainstorming your story idea. From my experience as a writer and talking to other writers, those vague ideas are very normal. Most published authors start with something fuzzy, a feeling, a character type, perhaps a setting, image. The problem isn't that your idea is vague. The problem comes when we don't know what questions to ask to make your story specific. Before we get into it and break down those steps, if you're struggling to plot and write your story, you can grab my free Sweet Romance Story Starter Pack at the link below this video. Let's get into it and break down those steps to make your vague idea into a full sweet romance story. Step 1. Take your vague idea, whatever that is, and run it through what I call the 4 sweet romance pillars. These are 4 details that every romance novel needs before you can build a plot. Pillar number 1. Who are your 2 characters? Brainstorm more than their names. Write down what do they each want in life. What do they each fear? What wound from their past is still affecting them today? Pillar number 2. Why can't they be together right now? Brainstorm your answer. This is your core conflict. There's external ideas. He's her boss. She's just moving away. And then there's internal. She doesn't trust men. He thinks he's not good enough. And it's important that you brainstorm both external and internal. Pillar number 3. What brings your 2 main characters together? What circumstance forces them into the same world? A job, a town, a family event, maybe even a crisis. Pillar number 4. How does love change them? By the end, who does each character become because of this relationship? What belief do they need to let go of? Once you can answer those 4 questions, even by simply writing down a rough sketch of your answers, you have the skeleton of a sweet romance novel. Now let's get to even more detail. Step number 2. Let's expand your story idea. Let me show you this in action. I'll take an idea that's so vague that it barely counts as an idea and expand it step by step. So here's the idea I had to start with. A woman moves to a small town and falls for a local guy. Okay, that's something, but it's not quite a story yet. It's a premise. So let's expand that. Tip number 1, give each character a specific flaw or wound. Maybe she moved to escape a broken engagement. She's guarded and doesn't plan to stay very long. He is the town's most dependable person. Everyone counts on him. But deep down, he's really terrified of needing anyone. because his mother walked out on him when he was 12 years old. Tip number 2. Brainstorm a concrete external conflict. Maybe she's been hired to manage the renovation of a historic building that he has been trying to save from being turned into a tourist trap. They are on opposite sides of a real issue with very real stakes. Tip number 3. Build in a ticking clock. Maybe she has 90 days to complete the renovation, and then she has to go back to the city. Maybe he has 90 days to convince the town council to preserve the building's original character. Both are working toward goals that seem very opposite of one another. Tip number 4. Layer in the internal journey over those 90 days. Perhaps she starts to feel the pull of belonging somewhere. Maybe he starts to let himself need her. The external conflict forces their internal wounds out into the open. Tip number 5. Name that moment that everything breaks between them. Maybe she gets offered a permanent city position. Maybe he overhears and assumes that she was never serious about any of it, the town, the project, or especially about him. And she thinks he's pushing her away because he doesn't believe in her. This is when they split up, and the dark moment now begins. So here's a simple breakdown of what we just did. We took a woman that moves to a small town and falls for a local guy, and we turned it into a full, emotionally layered story with wounds, conflict, a ticking clock, and a dark moment in 5 steps. And you can do this with any vague idea that you have. So step number 3, the 1-page plot map. Once you've expanded your story idea, your next tool is really a 1-page plot map. And don't worry, it's not an outline. It's just kind of a general map, like a series of plot anchors, sort of like highway markers. You don't have to know every street between them. You just need to know where the major stops are. So here are your 7 plot anchors for your Sweet Romance book. Anchor number 1, the opening world. Where are your characters when the story begins? What does normal life look like for each of them before love disrupts everything? Anchor number 2, the meet or re-meet if you are writing a second chance romance. How do they come into each other's world? What is their first impression of each other? Is there friction between each other or intrigue? Or maybe an awkward moment that sticks in the minds of both of them. Anchor number 3, forced proximity. What keeps throwing them together? What circumstance? Or perhaps it's a parent that keeps throwing them together. What situation means they can't just avoid each other? This is the engine of the middle section of your story. Anchor number 4, the turning point. This is the moment where one or both characters realize that something has shifted between them. They're starting to care for each other. And this is usually around the midpoint of your novel. Anchor number 5, the almost moment. The moment they come closest to admitting their feelings and something pulls them back or interrupts them. The almost kiss, the almost confession. And, here's where often there is maximum tension for the readers who are reading your book. Anchor number 6, the black moment. This is where everything falls apart. The misunderstanding, perhaps there's a secret that was revealed, and fear wins over love. They begin to separate, emotionally, if not physically, and this really feels like the end for both of your main characters. Anchor number 7, the resolution. Maybe one or both makes a choice to keep fighting for love. Maybe there's a grand gesture, a vulnerable confession, a moment of choosing love over fear. And this begins your happily ever after. So write these 7 anchors on a single page. Fill each one with your story. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to have all the details written down. It just needs to be there in front of you so you can see it. Now you have a plot map. Now let's move on to step number 4. Here's some common mistakes when moving from concept to plot. So it's almost time for you to brainstorm your story for yourself. But before we do that, I want to just talk about 3 mistakes that I made myself and that I've also seen other first-time writers make at this stage of the story. Mistake number 1, making your conflict too external. If your characters could get together the moment someone just explains the misunderstanding, then your conflict might not be strong enough. The reason they can't be together must come from inside of them, like a deep wound they have inside of them, from fear, from past wounds, from a belief that needs to change. External conflict is simply the stage, but internal conflict is really the story in a sweet romance book. Mistake number 2, skipping the character wound. Readers don't fall in love with perfect people. They fall in love with characters who are broken in relatable ways and brave enough to heal. If you haven't given your main characters specific wounds that this relationship forces them to face, then your story will feel thin no matter how beautiful your setting is. Mistake number 3, no transformation in either of the characters. A sweet romance isn't just 2 people who like each other and got together. It's a story about 2 people who become better, braver, more whole versions of themselves because of this relationship. So ask yourself this question: who is each character at the end of the story that they couldn't have been at the beginning? If the answer is basically the same person, then I encourage you to go back and really deepen the wound of both of your characters. So here's an idea to brainstorm today. Take your vague idea or concept, whatever it is right now, and run it through the 4 sweet romance pillars. Then write down your 7 plot anchors on a single page. You don't need to write whole chapters, or you don't need to write scenes yet. Just fill in those anchors. That's it. That's your whole job for this week. And when you're done, you will have crossed the most intimidating threshold in fiction writing. You will have moved from I have an idea to I have a story. In our next video, we're going to talk about clean romance tropes, the ones readers can't get enough of, and how to use them to give your plot those irresistible hooks that keep readers turning the pages. I'll see you there.